Hello! Today we're going to talk about a topic that we've had so many questions about in our Facebook group, emails, and other sources. Even commentary on an article I wrote about this topic, which is the eye safety and red light therapy. Because many people obviously are scared that the light therapy will damage their eyes, and I will do some very in-depth calculations here today in this article. It's a little bit more difficult for the average person, but yeah, follow along and I'll give you lots of leeway here and tools to really understand this problem. We are affiliated with some of the companies in this video. We earn a commission if you use a discount code or a discount link that is listed below. We got these products free of charge. All our opinions are our own, and this is not medical advice. So, the goal of this presentation is to talk with you about the most common concerns about red and near-infrared exposure, because most of the devices emit that, but I'll consider blue light as well, and also justify my very conservative protocol of 40 to 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared. That's the quantity of light that is emitted and exposed to the eyes during my eye treatment protocol. And I laid that eye treatment protocol out in an article of mine on eye health, which is a very long deep dive blog. But today, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about safety. And also I'll tell you how to use light therapy for eye health safely and why my protocol is very safe, and some device recommendations as well. So my conclusion overall is that, yeah, if you have like a handheld device that you're holding at this distance, for instance, or if you're using a tabletop unit or another panel, for instance, a wall panel, then the 40 to 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared is super safe, because it leads to a total dose of 3 to 4.5 joules over centimeter squared, which is very low, as we'll see in a second. The most important thing here to remember is that outdoor workers and hunter-gatherers, if you look at simple case studies, so somebody who is like a construction worker, who's working outside for 8 hours a day, they get 50 to 100 times that dose. The same for hunter-gatherers, who are still living on this planet, which we can plainly observe. They get much higher exposure. And what's also important is for most eye diseases, they have a far lower risk of having that. There's one exemption here, or a special case, which is the cataracts, which is a problem in the lens of the eye. But the fortunate news there is that it's very well treatable through surgery. So if you have that, and apparently hunter-gatherers do have more of that because of the cumulative UV exposure, blue light and especially UV exposure over time, that causes these, but they can be very well averted. And then, it's not just about light therapy, it's also about many other lifestyle nutrition strategies that you need to apply for optimal eye health. So I don't want to be really tunnel focused on light, but also circadian rhythm, movement, diet, etc. are very important here. And the overall conclusion of this video is that, more isn't better, but less is certainly also not better. So the original context. This is my eye health article. The link is in the description below, so check that out if you're interested. And it goes through many of the different eye health conditions, and it also justifies my protocol in a little bit of detail, which follows most of the science on this topic. So there are like dozens and dozens of eye health studies, and that's where I base my protocol on, of the 40 to 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared of a combination of red and near-infrared. Also near-infrared. So as I said before, protocol is very conservative. For individual conditions such as glaucoma or age-related macular degeneration, check the article because there are more details there. But this protocol of the 40 to 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared is very general for the average person. And many people have been commenting on my content like, oh, the 40 to 50 milliwatts of centimeter squared is still too high. We need even less. We need like 10 milliwatts, because you can never be too safe, right? And that is the topic I'll go into a lot of detail in this video today. Let's first consider the difference, because most people are living indoors nowadays, and they're living under LED lighting or fluorescent lighting, right? And you've got the LEDs above you. And generally, over the course of a day, that only it maybe exposes your body to 1 to 10, maybe 20 or 30 joules over centimeter square in total. It's only visible light. It's mostly blue light in these devices, not too much red, the healing wavelengths. So yeah, in my opinion, the blue should be offset by the red. That's not the case with indoor lighting. And yeah, you get that into your eyes, right? But the total amount of light there is usually only, if you're very lucky, it's like 1,000 lux. The problem is if you go outdoors, like here, for instance, it's already, at the very least 10,000 lux. And often if it's like a bright sunny day without clouds, it's 100,000 lux. Even on cloudy days, outdoor workers still get like 5,000 lux, so which is 5 times as bright. If it's like very overcast, it's still 5 times as bright as most indoor environments, if not 10 times, because most of the office environments don't reach those 1,000 lux. Then there's also near infrared that you get exposed to outdoors, which you don't get indoors. And yeah, over an 8-hour period, this can translate into 50, 100, in most cases, even several hundred joules over centimeter squared for people working outdoors or hunter-gatherers. Most of that is skin exposure, of course. Because of the structure of the eye, it's in the socket, right? So that not all of the light reaches the eye, but still, I'll go into more detail there. Still, if you do a very simple calculation on the skin, which is 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared per second, which is 3 joules over centimeter squared per minute, that gives you 720 joules over centimeter squared during a 4-hour period if you're working outdoors in a bright sunny day. Now, there's lots of data on hunter-gatherer societies. For context, it's very important to remember humans only moved indoors around the 1850s, 1900s. Even in the year 1900, most of the people still worked in agriculture, or they were working outdoors. So most of our ancestral past, we've actually lived outdoors in the sun, exposed to the sun. Of course, not full days in the bright sun. Even hunter-gatherers, they seek out the shade during the hottest periods of the day when it's very overbearing. But let's assume that we can very easily assume and even observe that most hunter-gatherers get several hours of sunlight exposure per day. Yeah, that means that you also get like several hundreds from a 100 joules over centimeter squared to several hundred joules over centimeter squared of light exposure to the skin, of visible light and also of infrared. Then, more important details here are that not only is that light in the red and near infrared, which are the healing wavelength, there are also the more higher energy blue light. So up to 20-25% of the light that you're exposed to from the sun is blue light, especially around noon. And then there's up to 5% of UV light, which is even higher energy, which, the UV light, you probably know, it can cause sunburns. And there's also some UVA, so UVB, that creates a vitamin D in skin. So that's also what our eyes and our skin are exposed to. And we're exposed to for whatever narrative you believe here. If you believe in evolution, it's for millions of years that we're exposed to it. If you believe in something else, that's all fine. But even then, you can simply observe that people for thousands of years we've lived outdoors, and we were exposed to that ultraviolet blue light for centuries, if not millennia, at the very least. So lots of blue lights, lots of UV lights, which are supposed to be super damaging, right? And dozens, if not hundreds of joules over centimeter squared of the blue light during the day. If you take a step back then, at my protocol with the 3 to 4.5 joules over centimeter squared of red and near infrared light exposed to the eyes, you can already tell that that's very, 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 very little. And apparently the studies show lots of healing benefits from that, but still, please bear with me, you can hopefully understand that is a very, very, very low dose, the 3 to 4.5 joules over centimeter squared. And I want to hammer this point down because, we get so many comments about this. If you want more information on this, just check out Alex's videos and article about sunlight. He's done some really great measurements of the sunlight intensity in New Zealand and in Dubai under different conditions, where he uses the spectrometer so that you can really observe what kind of dose you're getting if you're outside in the sun all the time. I will also go into one point that is maybe a little bit controversial for some people, but I will also say that not all stress is bad, right? So UV light, it is a stressor on the skin, but it also has huge health benefits for general health. And you'll have to check out my course with the link below, where I'll go into the topic of UV lights and especially the risks of UV lights and how to maximize the benefits. But yeah, there are many examples of stressors that are very beneficial for human health. Exercise is the most easy one for people. If you exercise, you've got muscle damage, reactive oxygen species that are created, which are associated with health if they're excessive. Inflammation is increased, and there are lots of things happening in the muscles and the cells, the extracellular matrix, etc., that are stressful, even on the immune system, on the energy systems, etc. And still that benefits our health. The same is true for saunas or infrared saunas, which activate the heat shock proteins in your body, also create reactive oxygen species, inflammation, stress on the heart, because your heart needs to beat faster, electrolyte stress, such as salt losses, and yet it's good for your health. Same for cold exposure, which increases the activation of the sympathetic nervous system, constricts your blood vessels, changes the dynamics of the heart, activates the brown and beige fat that is mostly around the chest and the thorax. And these are all beneficial. And in the same way, in my opinion, in a controlled dose, but that's a topic for another day, in a controlled dose, the blue lights and the UV lights are also good if you balance it out with red and near infrared. And that's the main topic of today. So blue lights, very, very important. So if you look at some eye health stressors, blue light activates the circadian rhythm in the eye. Once the blue light enters your eye, it tells your body it's daytime. The very short wavelengths, such as UV light, create some skin damage, which is why you shouldn't go into the sun for like 8 or 10 hours a day, in my opinion, because that's excessive. A little bit is good, too much is not good. And that's why, 1 hour of exercise per day is great. 10 hours is not so good because you cannot adapt. UV light also enters the eye, especially if you're young. It will go back into the back of the eye, into the retina, which is like the projector screen at the back of the eye that transmits sensory information to the brain. Has lots of other functions as well. Most of the UV light is actually blocked by the more superficial tissues, such as the lens, etc. So, especially in older adults, the UV light doesn't really penetrate very deeply. But what people in indoor environments get is only blue lights, no red lights, almost. And that, in my opinion, is very stressful because it's not balanced out. So here also, if you only get blue light exposure, you only get stress in your life, it's like exercise without recovery. That's a little bit for the context here. Now, let's jump back to the hunter-gatherers. You would think like if they have like a 10 or 100 times high dose, especially with the stressful blue and UV lights in their life, that they would have many more eye conditions, right? But even here, if you look at like the Hadza, and I think they're in Tanzania or Kenya in Africa, they're still around today. So maybe not in their prime anymore, like decades ago, because complications because of civilization. But still, these people have very low levels of myopia. In other hunter-gatherers, I think, you can see all the citations with the links there. I think this is from Ecuador or the Amazon. They almost have no myopia. It's related macular degeneration. It's about, in the developed world, it is about 2% by age 60, 10% by age 80. And also, if you look at the Amazon hunter-gatherers there in Ecuador, they don't have any age-related vision loss. Then, in the US, for instance, 1 in 5 people above 30% of people in the US above 65 have diabetes, and 1 in 5 of those people have diabetic retinopathy, which is like the projector screen at the back of the eye where they have problems. This is completely absent in hunter-gatherers. despite their much higher dose of exposure of light. Like I said, 10 times, 100 times as much as the average person will get who's sitting indoor in an office all day. The only exception here is cataracts, also an eye condition. Like I said, it is pretty easily fixable with surgery without too much side effects. Although it's more complicated than that, which is also the reason why I don't recommend maximum UV exposure. You need some for general health benefits, but not more is not always better. That is the only issue where hunter-gatherers seem to have issues with their eye health. But overall, despite the much higher dose, the eye health for hunter-gatherers is much better. Dry eye syndrome also not present in hunter-gatherers. Also, although that may have also have to do with the air, humidity, etc. Not only the light exposure, but still, despite the high light exposure, that is 10 or 100 times as high, in hunter-gatherers as modern humans who stay indoors 95% of the time of their day, they don't have dry eyes. They don't have the age-related macular degeneration. They don't have the myopia, etc. So generally, hunter-gatherers have much better eye health than indoor humans nowadays, which almost sounds like indoor pets, right? Cats, dogs, etc., who have health issues because they stay indoors all the time. So this is not just a light story. This is also about nutrition and other factors. So don't just please don't just tunnel vision focus on light. It's also about nutrients such as vitamin D, carotenes, which are vitamin A precursors, lutein, zeaxanthin. I mention all of these in my article about eye health. So yeah, again, check that article below. Some of the nutrients are very strongly linked to eye health, such as vitamin A, the vitamin A precursors, magnesium, zinc. I don't see the DHA, which is the omega-3 fatty acids mentioned here, but I think that needs to be included as well. And there's some other links such as your circadian rhythm, whether you get disruptions in your 24/7 day and night cycle and eye health. Even daily steps taken is associated with eye health. Maybe because people are outdoors more, maybe not, maybe because of the movement. We don't know yet. So then I will have to take a step back because, yeah, there are some studies on how much light penetrates the eye and different tissues, such as the cornea at the top of the eye, the lens, etc., the retina in the back. Yeah, here we know, and these studies are not definitive, but at least a few percent of UV light penetrates into the back of the eye, into the retina in children at least. A combination of UVB, which is less, and some UVA. But yeah, at least in adult humans, most of the UV will not penetrate and go into the back of the eye. You need the UV in the eye. Many people don't know that for like serotonin and dopamine creation, which turns into the serotonin turns into melatonin at night. So that's one of the reasons why you do want some UV in the eyes as well. Although that's a little bit controversial, and but check my course on UV lights below if you want to know a lot more about that. Red and near infrared pass really well, and they really do pass into the back structures of the eye, the macula, retina, etc. And that's why also many of these protocols on age-related macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, etc., they seem to work really well in the eye health studies. So if people use a very conservative dose of 40 to 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared for a few minutes on their eyes, which is much less than what you're getting in the sun, which also has like the blue and UV, that much higher energy, which can be potentially much more damaging. So that's why my protocol is very conservative. But that red and near infrared light passes into the back of the structures. Normally, though, when you're outdoors, you're not always facing the sun, so there's a little bit of context there. Some of the studies there that have, the citations you can check below, but some of the studies here show that depending on how you're standing, whether you're facing the sun or not, 10 to 30% of the light around you will enter the eye. So it's not full on with the dose there. Even in that case, if you're outdoor, maybe like a hunter-gatherer or a construction worker, maybe you spend 2 hours in the full sun, maybe 8 hours per day in the shade. Even then, you can accumulate 100, 200 joules over centimeter squared into the eyes over the course of a day. So that's a lot more than the 3 to 4.5 joules of centimeter squared that I recommend with my protocol, which is also why you don't even need to be more conservative with the protocol, because it's already super conservative and it shows many benefits in the studies. And on the skin, it's of course much more. It may be even 400 or 1,000 joules of centimeter squared that people get in terms of total exposure during a day, even though they may spend a lot of time in the shade of a combination of different light types on their skin. So yeah, what would I recommend for eye health in terms of devices? I will go into this a little bit because yeah, people still want recommendations here. I've recommended for the eye health protocol, I simply recommended the simple handheld devices, which is yeah, a couple of $100. You hold it at like a distance like this. You will have a 40 to 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared dose there of combined red and near infrared light. And some of the companies like Rouge has the Nano, the Block Blue Light has the Power Panel Portable, but you can also use like a tabletop or a wall panel, and you just stand away further, right? You don't stand at 6 inches because the dose may be 70 or 80 milliwatts over centimeter squared. You may stand away 8 or 10 inches so that the power density into the eyes drops off to 40 to 50 milliwatts over centimeter squared. And some of the things I will mention here as well is, in my opinion, if you're working indoors all day, like I do right now, I'm in my Airbnb. You would do much better if you had some indoor lighting that have healthy lights there. So yeah, Chroma has some great indoor lighting. Some other companies as well, such as Block Blue Lights, have some great lights that are great for the circadian rhythm. But Chroma has some great devices, the Skyporter 2.1 or the Skylight that you can use indoors for additional lighting into for the body during the day. And these contain a lot of red, and around noon the device will start emitting more blue light, for instance. So that's great. And in the evening for eye health, I recommend some blue light blocking glasses. Block Blue Light has them, Chroma has them, some of the other companies as well. Yeah, these are great for the evening because, like I said, you don't just focus on light exposure, also about the absence of light at night. So yeah, people would do well to wear blue blocking glasses like a few hours before bedtime. These red tinted glasses to improve eye health. So, and nutrition, of course, but yeah, I cannot really recommend a device here, so that's not possible. So a simple handheld device would be already sufficient. Are there any other practical recommendations? I would say so if you stand really close to a panel, like I do. I usually use the panels directly on my skin, even though it's like full body setup. And you can make the case there that you can wear some of the protective eyewear that many of the companies now deliver. If you're standing super close and you want to be 100% safe there, you can wear that. I personally don't do that. I will be very honest about that. Yeah, I just close my eyes and don't have any negative side effects. So at age 39, my eyesight is still perfect. I will say it depends on the person, so there are no hard guidelines there. If you get issue with your eyes with the protocol, then don't follow the protocol anymore and change up your routine. So it really depends on your unique circumstances, because we do have some people in our Facebook group, for instance, who have used red light therapy. And even though in the studies it shows benefit for dry eyes, for instance, they got dry eyes after using red light therapy with a certain protocol. So if it doesn't work, then don't follow it, and don't put that stress on your eyes if it's unnecessary, right? I will say that, yeah, for the vast majority of people, this protocol will help them out and improve their eyesight. And we have seen tons of people get these improvements as well. And the analogy I want to give here is very simple. Like for a normal human being, I will say, go back to the earlier example again of the hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers normally can squat, they can sprint, etc. Right? That's very simple. You need that to survive, or at least be a little bit of athletic to be able to hunt or gather food. So normally, yeah, you should be able to sprint or squat without knee pain, right? But if you're exercising and you're getting lots of knee pain, then of course you change the exercise up. You don't continue with it for months and years until your knees are damaged. Same with eye health. Normally, this protocol should work for the average human being. And one of the things I suspect is that many humans now move outdoors with sunglasses, right? So they're never used to getting any brightness into their eyes anymore, which is why maybe if you wear sunglasses all the time, build up very slowly, because it's probably more safe to do so because your eyes haven't acclimated to any lights at all almost, or yeah, only the indoor lighting like this with like 800 lux or 600 lux, what I get indoors right now, which isn't anything comparable to being outside. So if you're that person, then slowly increase your dosage until you're able to tolerate a normal, very, very conservative dose into the eyes of the 40 to 50 milliwatts of 10 centimeters squared for 3 minutes. Yeah. Lastly, I'll say a little bit about my methodology. I've mostly relied on Vladimir Heiskanen Excel sheet here, closely read all the studies, did lots of research on PubMed on what I could find about hunter-gatherers, eye health issues, etc. So yeah, some people think this is important, including me, but because most people don't, I didn't put it at the beginning of the video. And lastly, I do have lots of hypotheses around here. One of the things is I would like to see some studies with much higher doses and than the very conservative protocol that I suggested. Also about treating the entire body and eye health, because we've seen recently in a 2025 study that treating even the chest will have benefits for eye health here. I would need to know more about the side effects of cataract surgery, because there are some, I know some people such as Dr. Jack Cruz are very concerned about the side effects of cataract surgery. So the best solution there is to not go super overboard with the UV light exposure, where you're exposing your eyes for many hours a day at maximum intensity. But then again, with the cataracts, there are also other causes of the cataracts, such as smoking, such as trauma to the eye, for instance, that causes that for many people. So lots of hypotheses here that we'll need to find out about in the research in the coming years. But for me, I hope you like my explanation of my very, very conservative eye treatment protocol. And these are the citations that I used so far. And if you have any questions, leave them below and go read up on my eye health article for more information.